Everybody strap in, this video may be a little long, but I promise you it will be worth it. Iyoku literally just revealed the future of the Dragon Ball franchise. So there's this website called Nikkei, and I'm probably not pronouncing it right, it's spelled Nikkei. And apparently it's a news website in Japan. Iyoku, and again, I have a hard time saying his name, it's Iyoku, but they roll together so quickly for me that they kind of become one name. Anyway, he actually wrote an article for this website, and Super Chronicles translated it overnight. And at first I was like, no way, this information is so valuable, like, is this even real? So I tracked down the website, the links and everything, they were Japanese characters, so just typing in Iyoku didn't pull it up. I had to type in the Japanese characters for it, and I found it, and it says that you need an account, a paid subscription, to access this article. But it starts off really identical to how Super Chronicles translation starts, so you know it's legitimate. Anyway, this is coming straight from Super Chronicles translations on Twitter. Again, this is revealing the future of Dragon Ball. It's really big information, so let's just go ahead and jump into it. The article's name is Indomitable Dragon Ball, Inheriting the Mission, a global strategy to reach the next generation, featuring Iyoku, the president of Capsule Corporation Tokyo. So, if you remember the drama back when about the Capsule Corporation stuff that went through, and now we're seeing the fruits of all that coming through now. And remember, these words are typed up by Iyoku, so keep that in mind. Dragon Ball will celebrate its 40th anniversary in 2024. Dragon Ball is a unique and amazing work. Rather than thinking of the work in relative or uniform terms, the keynote is to think about how it should be done as a work of art. As the executive producer of a work with unprecedented longevity, my mission is to expand and convey what the original creator, Akira Toriyama, has created. I will continue to produce works such as anime series, movies, and games over the next 10 years. That is just, we're not even a paragraph in yet, and that is getting into the biggest part of this. After the article, I go back and talk about some of my highlights, but right now I just want to say that's really big news. Dragon Ball, we figure it wouldn't be going away anytime soon, but we got hard confirmation there. Dragon Ball, at least for the next 10 years, has multiple anime, movies, and games planned. He goes on to say, adopting what is popular at the moment does not increase the probability of success. I will not be swayed by the current trends, but will create works that I feel will be good enough, quote. He says here, when the craze had died down, there was a time when the Dragon Ball craze, which had spread around the world over the past 40 years, had died down. When I became the head of Shueisha's Dragon Ball room in 2016, I could not visualize what was really happening. 7 to 8 years ago, I went to a huge event in Brazil called CCXP. I was told that Japanese anime were popular in South America, but there was a discrepancy from what I was told. The feedback from fans was weak. It may have been at the peak of its popularity when it was on air in South America. I also thought it was the result of relying on old-fashioned zeal. Therefore, starting with the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie in 2018, we took steps such as actively participating in events. So it sounds like what he's saying is Dragon Ball Super, there was a time in Dragon Ball Super, I can't tell if this is like right before they did Dragon Ball Super, but he said starting in 2018 with Broly, so it seems like he's saying around the time after, I think it's probably after the end of Dragon Ball Super or near the end, the hype kind of died down and there was as much excitement. So they decided to release Broly and actually make events out of it. Let's get back into the article. He says here, I felt concerned that Dragon Ball has not been expanded worldwide. Originally, we did not see the strength and diffusion power of the work. We need to take a closer look at this and see if we can do more. We are not looking for a one-size-fits-all approach, but rather we are looking at events such as the Dragon Ball World Championships, the expansions of games, creating facilities, and anything else that we can do. We will work on them in parallel. That's really big news. Never before was there such a simultaneous worldwide reception of an anime. It can be said that we are now able to do things that we had not ever considered before. From the beginning, I began to think about the overseas expansion of Dragon Ball. With Daima, which will be released in fall 2024, we are taking on the challenge of creating an anime with a completely original story. I'm glad that all our works have been well received overseas. Daima was announced at New York Comic Con. Dragon Ball series is recognized around the world. It makes no sense to announce it somewhere domestic. Comic Con is a great place to announce your work. Again, he's pretty much, he chose to speak facts today. Like, he knows Japanese, but he chose to speak facts. Like, that is big. I know a lot of fans like myself who have felt like for years the Japanese anime market and Japanese video game developers kind of forget that a lot of the stuff they make is so popular worldwide. Like, for example, I remember whenever they did Dragon Ball Super, it took months before it came to the US with English dub. Now, I mean, he's saying here, like, we're going to try to prioritize the worldwide market and grow Dragon Ball into a global business like it should be. Like, I mean, it already is, but he's just saying they're going to finally start putting in the effort with the Capsule Corporation Tokyo in mind. You know, they made a whole company dedicated to that. So let's go ahead and continue here. He says, people who understand the value of the culture are gathered there to begin with, and we chose Comic-Con because of its ability to spread our work throughout the world. Overseas expansion is currently being considered as a necessary means of spreading the word about our work. If we compare the flow of manga titles selling in the book format and then finally becoming anime to a river, the overseas developments were the ones that followed that river, meaning that in the past it was a fan, in the sense that the overseas expansion followed later. I am convinced that Dragon Ball has pioneered many things as a Japanese anime. I have a sense of mission that if there is something that no one else has done, I must continue to challenge it. The next category, or rather the next subject, is the industry is overcompetitive. It is tough to see the competition among anime due to the emergence of streaming sites, etc. Competition has become excessive. We must not create a situation where manga becomes anime, and when the anime is over, the content ends as is. The ideal situation is to create a situation where the average viewer sees the content. We are in a cycle of consumption, and in some aspects the cycle is becoming short-lived. I don't think it's good at all to have a boom that builds up and then burns down, which can be a factor in the content not lasting long. It will be tough if we do not create a place to compete differently from anime as content. It is advisable for works that are now popular to be distributed simultaneously around the world to repeat generations and reach the next stage of popularity. In order to bring in overseas strength, a leading role is needed. In order for a producer to take on this role, they must transcend the boundaries of the corporate organization. There must be someone who has a bird's eye view of the work and is in a position to say to each company, I think you should do this. I push myself to be a catalyst for this through various discussions. For Japanese content to continue, it's necessary to have someone who can say, the status quo is not good enough. So that was the breakdown of Article 1. Article 2 will be coming out soon. Super Chronicles says it's more data-driven about market growth potential in various countries, so possibly talking about expanding Dragon Ball and things like that. But like I just said at the beginning of this video, this is pretty huge. This is Akio Iyoku, head of the Capsule Corporation company in Tokyo, who is pretty much in charge of that Dragon Ball company. I mean, like I said before, this is a company dedicated entirely to Dragon Ball. And he says we're not going to have any more lulls in content. We got the Super manga out right now. We've got the Daima anime coming out next year. We've got Sparking Zero coming out next year. And to go beyond that, he also said for the next 10 years, they're going to keep doing stuff like that. Now, there was a concerning part in the article that I think could be interpreted multiple ways. And it was whenever they started talking about, well, whenever he started talking about Akio Iyoku, he started talking about the situation with the anime and the manga. He said here, we must not create a situation where a manga becomes anime, and when the anime is over, the content ends as is. The ideal situation is to create a situation where the average viewer sees the content. We are in a cycle of consumption, and in some aspects, the cycle is becoming short-lived. So, what I think he's saying here is that maybe they killed the plug on the Dragon Ball Super anime a little too soon. And just because they killed the plug on the Dragon Ball Super anime a little too soon, that doesn't mean that they should end the Dragon Ball Super manga anytime soon just because the anime ended. So it sounds like what he's saying is that some of this stuff may be making room for them to have time to bring the Dragon Ball Super anime back. There's also the interpretation that he's just saying that now that the Super anime has ended, that doesn't mean the Super manga needs to end. So if you want more Super, you can read the manga. You know, maybe that's what he's saying there. I'm not exactly sure. Like I said, it can be interpreted multiple ways. But what we do know is that the Dragon Ball IP is gigantic and it's back in full swing. And there's multiple projects being developed. And it feels good to be a Dragon Ball fan right now. And let's just say I chose to make... I mean, listen, I started making Dragon Ball videos because I love Dragon Ball. I didn't know that we are about to enter this golden age renaissance of Dragon Ball content where we're getting a ton of stuff. So, let's just say it feels good to be a Dragon Ball fan. That does it for this video, guys. If you want to, you can go ahead and leave a like and comment down below on the video what you thought. Make sure you subscribe, because when you subscribe, you actually get updates to all my uploads. And I try to upload news that's relevant. Sometimes if there's a week without news, I'll take a more general approach to content and like play a game or talk about something that's a little older. Like I did with Dragon Ball GT. Some of you got really fired up about that. I really appreciate all the input in the comments on that video. Anyway, make sure you... have a good day, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace off.